down keys. Matthew types, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Matthew types give shape to things and timing. So, they say, right, by Thursday we're going to do this, or next month we will complete this. Morris Serrano was good to observe. Morris was all about obedience to projects. Churches are static things that sit on high streets. Kingdom is all about fruit. The difference between ecclesia and church as we do it is John 15. The fear of God concerning fruit. It's a fruit manufacturing plant. If we don't produce fruit, we're not a fruit manufacturing plant. And it's over. From the Father, this is the aspect of the Father that's hard bitten. A CEO, a demander of fruit. The two drawbacks with Morris was there was only one of him. And secondly, he only had the light of Pentecostalism. The third level light of 3 stages of growth in 1 John 2 and Feast of Tabernacles, which is going on right now, is that there's life beyond the meeting, the crusade, the Lance Wallnau Mario Murillo crusade, leading people to Jesus and getting them baptized in the Spirit. That's day one. There's life beyond that. There's life beyond patching up bodies with healings and deliverances. There's life beyond a tidy house with one demon gone temporarily until he brings his friends back. There's Zoe life. I have come that you may have a Mario Murillo Lance Wallnau meeting and then it's all over. No, I have come that you may have Zoe life. Jews had 2,000 years of God experience, but God wouldn't let them out on the world because what they had wasn't the message. It was the foundation of the message. You've got to start somewhere. But it wasn't the message. The infant school child message is not sufficient for holding down a position in the real world. I'm sorry. The ABCs. The listening to stories with the infant teacher. It's not sufficient. In the Gospels, the 12 and the 70 actually did the stuff. Now, Morris Serrano would have had them all on stage, wouldn't he? He'd have had them all on stage. So would Benny Hinn. Look what they did. Look what's happened. They came back bouncing. They had been used in healing and deliverance. The next thing in American terms would have been to try and teach the Jews to speak American properly, these 12 and 70, to speak American properly so they could present the gospel of healing and deliverance with a drawl properly. Then take some buckets round for money. And there you have it. An American juggernaut ready to go that goes around the earth. The second level healing deliverance money bucket juggernaut show. God doesn't allow the second level light to go around the earth properly. He'll allow a Bonky meeting, a Daniel Kolenda meeting. He'll allow these things, they have to be staged properly in the Spirit to protect them from witchcraft and all this. God will allow Art Montgomery to get his million in the second level light that Art Montgomery preaches. They'll allow that. God will allow that. but it has to be staged in prayer. It has to be girded around for safety. So at least some portion of those that hear won't have the seed immediately snatched from them, but will go on to the stuff in the Bible. So God doesn't really allow the full freedom of the second level to go around the earth properly, because it's not the message. Neither the first level gospel of Jews in the outer court, nor the second level gospel of Pentecostals and Americans is the gospel. I think it was in the beginning when Americans first moved into America. The Europeans, when they first crossed, they seemed to create communities. They seemed to have more about them just than a meeting. But what happened? The gospel, or good news of God, is a third level message. It's the message of 1 John 1. 1 John 2 says about the 3 stages. 1 John 1 says how it works in practice. That's the protocol. It was prefigured by one family of Jacob as 12 sons who got it together, so it became 12 bloodline tribes, which to this day the dragon has snuck into because it was worth snucking into and taken over in Revelation 12 style. One of Jesse Sabatar's roles has been to uncover this, which, if it goes the wrong way, could lead to Armageddon, because people suddenly realise, these 12 tribes have been taken over. Well, not all of them have been taken over, and there are some decent Jews. The devil has taken over all 12 tribes and added Merovingians, who took over the Davidic line, and the Saudi Brotherhood, that's the 14th group, who have taken over the Abrahamic Ishmael line. The devil only bothers with the man-child. He doesn't bother with other nations and other things. He only bothers with the Abrahamic line. He only bothers where the blessing, where the seals of God, where the promises of God were put. Why waste time anywhere else? He knows what he's doing. Only the rubbish people of the world float around aimlessly. Think, I'll go my own way. Oh, yeah? How many thousands of years practice and experience and knowledge have you got then, starting with your own self from scratch? You want to do that, do you? Took 3 generations just from the word go with Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. What chance have you got? But anyway, the point is, the blessings to Abraham, according to what was possible under the Old Covenant, were still so weighty and tremendous, they were worth the dragon taking them over. He did the same to the church. Jesus said that en route to filling the earth with the gospel, the kingdom field would be like a farmer who sows good seed, and then an enemy would come by night and sow bad seed. Jesus laid that all out. This has happened. Now, it's important to see that there are 3 aspects to the preparation of Jesus, which gave him authority local to Israel in his ministry. 30 years as an ordinary man without anointing, keeping out of Genesis 3. Up until 1985, we would have said, like St. Paul, Jesus kept without sin. That's accurate also, but what our minds have done is screen out the tree of good. The tree of evil is obvious, but the point of Jesus is he kept clear of both. There aren't 2 trees of evil, of course. It's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The occult are more like Taoism. The mothers of darkness, the highest witches on earth, are middle class mostly. so as to draw no attention to themselves. And they go to Mass daily. Jesus was never deflected by religion. He was never deflected either by outright sin. He kept out of the Genesis 3 lie. He only did what he saw the Father doing. The second thing Jesus did was get baptized in the Spirit. The third thing that Jesus did, I should read that Jesus did, was the intense all-out war of 40 days in the wilderness. And it was the Holy Spirit who drove him to that, facing down the three big tests of the enemy. God the Father had the legal right, through his covenant with Israel, to give Jesus jurisdiction over Israel to preach and teach the kingdom, the message of the kingdom. He had no authority directly over that Canaanite woman. She plunged in, but he had no authority outside of the territory given to him, and that was because of covenants. The message of the kingdom is everything Morris preached. The authority given to man in the first two messages of being born again, being baptized in the Spirit. Morris even wrote a book about Eden. So he went right back to Genesis 3, which is rare for Pentecostals. But Morris was rare. He was half Jewish. Morris obeyed the Lord and distributed 2 men from Eden to every house in Israel. It caused huge ructions. The reason is the devil has taken over Israel. They're Zionist. The land is owned by a cult family, House of Rothschild. The devil has plans for Israel, and he doesn't want half Jews plastering any first level, second level, or third level gospel on what he regards as his Theodor Herzl, House of Rothschild people. Not even Orthodox Jews are happy with Israel. They don't recognize Israel as it is now. Ezekiel chapter 28 doesn't even call it Israel until later in the chapter. Back to Morris. Morris, as a Matthew type, is dynamic, purposeful, and thinks entirely in projects. I'm not sure Jerusalem Church was entirely projects, so I'm thinking kingdom is somewhere between the static nature of churches as we do them now, or say a family entity that just grows over time, and a farmer, and it's a cross between those two, and a farmer thinking in seasonal terms regarding his fruit business. See, this is the thing we're thinking in the Spirit. It's like the Bible, actually. 66 books of parallel grids and parallel pictures. That's sort of with the parables as well. This is how kingdom is. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil doesn't do grids. It does little step-by-step instructions, but it doesn't try to pull the whole lot together. Kingdom is pulling everything simultaneously, because that's what it is before the throne. God sustains all things by his word of power. It's a bit more than 2 tablets of stone brought down from a mountain. So we see both in the Gospels. The idea of gospel leaven growing steadily throughout the earth, and the annual feast idea of Jews specific to annual grain harvests, and cycles leading to an annual feast of ingathering. Morris saw things in terms of ingatherings, processes to get to the stage of ingathering. The Father is both relational and he's running a fruit business. Can we carry both in the Spirit? This is the nature of throne life. Throne life continually carries all 3 feasts and the Maranatha Spirit of acceleration, and that the Lord is coming soon. Fellowship with the Father is relational and it's businesslike. John 15 is about fruit. The Father must see fruit. If we abide, we will see fruit. But if we abide, we also get to see the truth. What truth? How Genesis 3 works. If you abide in my word, then you're truly my disciples, and you shall know the truth, and that truth, the truth, will set you free. That's third level. So how Genesis 3 works? We'll see how incredible the cross is to deliver us totally and eradicate the whole of the Genesis 3 lie from the earth. Listen, Leviticus 23 outlines all three feasts. The third Feast of Tabernacles is super demanding about there being 4 classifications of wood types. The Gospel writers don't happen to be blends, do they? They're such examples of the 4 living faces. They're almost a caricature, aren't they? Well, perhaps you haven't thought about it or looked into it. I have now done that for a few years, but only because I was nudged. I didn't think of it. But it's amazing. Matthew is just so Matthew, down to beginning with a genealogy. Who else begins with a genealogy? And then there's Mark, who says very little. It's 16 chapters. Could only squeeze 16 out of it. And the last chapter isn't even about Jesus at all. It's about the spiritual gifts. Luke is just so incredibly Luke. I mean, who else talks about the multitude being in... they're in exact rows, Exact rows. I mean, who gets that kind of a detail in? That's just a Luke thing, that is. John, spaced out. He's called the non-synoptic gospel. I mean, it's just so John. So the gospel writers don't happen to be blends. They're such examples of the 4 living faces. They're almost a caricature. Matthew's the lion face. Mark is both an ox and a personable cherub face. Luke is a human face. John is an eagle face. If approximately 1/4 of the earth are Matthews, how come there's only one Morris Cerullo, project managing, doing purposeful fruit managing? It's something to do with the way we do pyramid church. God doesn't build pyramids. Synagogues come out of Babylon. The first church on earth in the Old Covenant came out of one relational family. The New Covenant all have one direct father in supernatural birth, and we are a family. How on earth did we get duped into pyramid building? Ecclesia has no one figurehead, where we say we are all Mr. Figurehead. Call no man father, call no man teacher. Conversely, if the living faces are true, scanned across mankind, every 4th person, male or female, is a Matthew type. And they're project managerial, get stuff done in responsible, manageable chunks type people. The pyramids destroy this. They stultify body working properly. There's only one person allowed to be a Matthew in a congregation. The rest are out on golf courses because they're snubbed. Drop their wives off at church, perhaps. Go play golf. Or perhaps the wives are the Matthews as well. Now and they play golf. Do you see what I mean? Churches are not representative because of their pyramid shaped. All 12 apostles were doing outstanding miracles. They went from house to house, building up believers. Like Joel 2, they didn't jostle. There wasn't one Morris Cerullo. Assuming 12 apostles, there are approximately 3 representatives of each of the 4 woods, except they were probably more blended than the gospel writers. I'm definitely, for example, a Luke John type of person. I think they're INFJs. Bit puzzled about that, but someone could tell me. After 6,000 years of control spirit pyramid building, the final administration only really kicks in with a new covenant. If we don't know the Lord, from the least to the greatest, if we haven't the pure heart that sees God, if we can't see what the Father is doing next, how in the blazes are we going to ever leave Pyramid in Egypt? This is the realm that God said would cover the earth. Surely, as truly as I live, all the earth will be covered with the knowledge of the glory realm of God. That's the third area of the tabernacle realm. That's where God dwells. It's a roof with holes realm where we all see through to God. But it's also a four woods realm where 1/4 are Matthew types. There's not just one super anointed half Jewish, half Italian Morris Sorrello, or any podium American for that matter. There's ecclesia, there's city on a hill everywhere. Jesus said when the message of the kingdom, not the second level, not the 2-level message, not the American gospel message, when the message of the kingdom has been preached in every place, then shall the end come. The message of the kingdom is not the day one message of being born again and baptized in the Spirit. It's a message of all of life, living under one king. It's a Passover Pentecost Tabernacles message. It's not Rory and Wendy Alex scurrying around the world with God TV and a 2-level message. I told them that even before they ever came to know they'd be starting God TV. When they came to my house in Emsworth and I played them my Joel 2 track off my album, which contains the thing about non-jostling. Many other things.